Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD Application and Website Development program, AWD1111.NET Framework with Web Databases class, I've decided to go over these 50 ASP.NET MVC interview questions from C# Corner. In the first lecture that I did, I went over the first 10 questions, so I'm going to continue on in here. Question 11 is, what is or are the differences between a full view and a partial view? The big one is right here. The full view contains the layout page. Alright, because it is a full page, before the view is rendered, the view start page is rendered. On the other hand, a partial view does not contain the layout page, so it does not verify for a view start. So as it says, we cannot put common code for a partial view within the view start page. Partial view is designed specially to render within the view. All right. Again, I'm not saying to you, hey, does this totally make sense? All right. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of overview of the stuff that we're going to be covering in class. Question 12, what are HTML helpers in MVC? It says they're much like traditional ASP.NET Webform controls. They're used to modify HTML, but they're more lightweight. All right. Unlike Webform controls, a helper does not have an event model and a view state. Typically, they'll help render faster, cleaner, and with less work. Now, notice you can create your own helpers. We're going to be more concerned with using the built-in helpers. It says in most cases, an HTML helper is just a method that returns a string. All right. Now, as an example right here, here is a helper. You can see what the helpers look like. All right. And it says if you have this about this website, that's going to create this about this website. And this will be hyperlinked. Okay. It has several properties, but the bottom line is this. It's considered a faster, better, and cleaner way of working with HTML controls, especially form element controls. All right. So as it says here on the bottom of the page and the top of the next page, the following HTML helpers can be used to render, modify, and output form elements. Begin and end form. These are things you should recognize. A text area, a text box, a checkbox, a radio button, a list box, etc. And they do give a coded example on the rest of the page here. It will not make sense until A, you see this stuff in action, and B, you start doing it yourselves. All right. Next question. What is attribute-based routing? I'm skipping it. All right. Next question. What is temp data? Guess what? We've sort of gone over this already. Temp, short for temporary. And as it says, temp data is a dictionary object used to store data temporarily. It is able, as it says right there, to keep data for the duration of an HTTP request. In other words, it can keep live data between two requests. It can help pass data between different action methods. And again, there is an example here, and there is a nice hyperlink right here. Question 15, and there are several questions related to this. This question is, what is Razor in MVC? Here's my take. You may agree, you may disagree. But in many of the files that you'll work with in here, they will end with a .cshtml extension. Many of the files that you work with will end with this extension. So what does this have to do with anything? The CS is for C#. The HTML is for hypertext markup language. So in other words, a .cshtml file is a file where you can embed C# code right into your HTML. That embedded C# is done using Razor. And as the author says here, Razor is compact and expressive. It minimizes the numbers of characters and keystrokes in a file. It is relatively easy to learn. Why? Because it basically uses C# syntax. It works with virtually any text editor. It has great IntelliSense, and it is good for unit testing. Now, let's talk about what it's not. You could argue and say, well, wait a minute. We talked about separation of concerns. Isn't this kind of breaking that separation of concerns? Because what you have here is C# and HTML existing in the same file. Yes and no. Yes, it is existing in the same file, but it has the same common purpose. All right. This is the way you programmatically can get that stuff to happen. It's kind of the way I look at it. And again, these opinions are mine. Okay? You may not agree with the stuff that I'm saying in here. Now, the Razor View Engine versus the Webform View Engine. All right? Take a look at that. I'm not going to go over it at all, but hopefully you can look at and understand some of the differences between the two. Some of the main syntax rules for Razor. That's question 17. Again, I don't want to read to you. I've already mentioned the extension. Like a programming language, it's going to be case sensitive. Strings within quote marks. Variables. You declare a variable with var. You end code statements with a semicolon. And the other thing is, everything that you do in Razor starts with an @ sign. If you've got several statements, they're in curly braces. So here's an example. In fact, there are examples in here. Not only that, you can break into and out of using syntax, Razor syntax, inside of your document. And there's no problem at all with doing that. So you can go kind of between. You can embed HTML in your Razor code, and you can embed Razor code in your HTML. Okay? All right. How do you implement forms authentication? I'm going to skip it. Explain areas in MVC. The only thing that I did want to say about areas, because I'm still learning this stuff as well. All right. Areas, it says, are a way to divide or isolate the modules of a large application. So it's kind of a way to put things together that belong together, but it's meant to try to keep a little bit more, I don't even know what you'd say, organization to your application. The benefits, as it says here on the bottom of the page, allows us to organize models, views, and controllers into separate functional sections of an application. It's fairly easy to integrate different areas, and it can make it easier for unit testing. Question 20 is explain the need for display node. I'm going to skip that question also. And although we're only at 10 minutes, as I promised, I would only go through 10 questions at a time. All right? So rather than starting up with question 21, We'll stop it right here, and we'll pick it back up in just a few minutes.